Girlfriend, today I'm so excited to share with you why I'm not a fan of bro marketing. What I'm going to do is tell you why I'm not a fan of it. I'm going to show you what I like to do instead of bro marketing. And then I'm going to talk about the results that I have seen as a result of that with me as well as my community. So let's do this, shall we? So when I think about bro marketing, I think about this one experience that I had was with a male colleague that I had met that had his podcast, and he was really gung-ho about his podcast. And we were connecting to see if we were a good fit for me to be a podcast guest. You know, we talked for about 15, 20 minutes. He was asking me about my business, which was cool. Things were going great. But then at the end, he wanted to talk to me about this podcast in the box. Well, as most of you know, I have a YouTube channel. I don't have a podcast. That's something that I plan to do later. But right now I'm really focusing on my YouTube channel. But he just kept pushing about how I should get this podcast in the box. He was an affiliate for this podcast in the box service. I kept telling him no and how I wasn't interested, but he kept pressing and pressing and pressing. We eventually got off the call and I thought we were done with it. So we scheduled the podcast interview, and then after I did the podcast interview, y'all, he started up again. And I was just like, wow. I had already told him no, I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in doing a podcast now. I have a YouTube channel. I was very specific because I understand that sometimes you have those folks that, you know, they kind of string you along because they don't want to hurt your feelings. It was not that situation at all, girlfriend. It was really me telling them that I was not interested in what he had to offer. And he just kept pressing. So at the end of the podcast, he ended up uploading my video. But then what I noticed like a week later, he had taken it down. And I guess it was because I did not get the podcast in the box. But I was just like, wow, why would he do that? I thought the whole point of the podcast was for us to share each other's audiences, to give us both visibility, to further expand and grow our business. But he had one objective and one objective only, and that was for me to get this podcast in a box. So when I think about bro marketing, that is what I think about. I think about somebody being really salesy, not really being cognizant of the things that I want or need. And it's kind of a one size fit all. You know, everybody should be doing this because he's doing it. So, and he's selling it and he wants you to buy it from him. And that's the part that I really, really don't like. So you may be thinking, well, Inga, what do you recommend instead? Well, I call it my A game. And I think many of you have probably heard this before. And I realized I hadn't talked about it in a while. So I wanted to bring it up again. So the first part of my A game is called ask versus assume. Now, when I think about the situation with the podcast in the box, granted, he asked me about it, right? I told him I was not interested. But then he assumed that because I guess he had a podcast, that he thought I should have one too. And that it was a one size fit all. But in actuality, I had already told him that I wasn't interested. It kind of makes me think about similar to another experience that I had with a car salesman, that I went to go find a car. I knew the car that I was looking for, but instead of him trying to find me the car or the vehicle that I was looking for, he tried to sell me something that he already had on the lot. Again, I have told him what I said I wanted, but he totally did not hear me or listen to me. He didn't ask. He just assumed that because I wanted a sports utility vehicle, and at the time I wanted a Pathfinder, a Nissan Pathfinder, that because he had I think it was like a Toyota 4Runner, nothing against that at all. I just didn't want that. That's what I should get. Again, that's why it's imperative for us to ask our customers what they want and not assume that what we have is what they need. Another thing that really made me think about this was just in the interactions that I've had with folks via DM, and I'm sure you guys have probably gotten these. I've gotten a couple of them from VA agencies that want to, you know, provide their services to me, but they never asked me if I needed their services. They're just giving me this long spiel about what they can do and how they can help me with my business, delegate some of the things on my business, but they hadn't asked me what I actually wanted. So they were more attacking than attracting me to them. And attraction is very important. We want to attract our customers to them, because if we attack them, they're not going to want to do business with us. And if they do business with us, they're only going to do it one time to get out of their face. We want people to have a reoccurring type of business with us. We don't want a one and done type of customer. We're looking for people that buy from us over and over again, because as entrepreneurs, what does that help us do? That helps us stabilize our income. So that's another part of the A game. So I've told you about the ask versus assume. I've just told you about the attract versus attack. The next thing that I really think is important when it comes to interacting with our prospects and clients is to assist versus annoy. So how does this play out? This plays out especially when it comes to a prospect, not expecting a prospect to buy from us the first day that they meet us. I believe that when we interact with people that we haven't met before, they need to build that know, like, and trust with us. Now, of course, if there's something that they've been looking for and we are the answer to them to get to their promised land, of course they'll buy from us. But I can tell you that that's more of a rarity than it is something that happens on an ongoing basis. It is a process. Typically, it can range anywhere from, next week to maybe 5 years from now, because every customer is different. Every customer is going to have their own buying cycle. Typically, I try to work with customers and hopefully have a buying cycle of 60 days, but that's not always the case. So we have to really be true and allow the customer to have time to marinate on us. So during that time that we're able to provide them value-packed type of information, whether it be an article or a checklist or something that's going to help them in their time of marinating and getting to know us and getting to feel better about us and really determining if we are the person that they've been looking for. Giving them that time to do that. Similar to, very different from what I told you about the story. I guess maybe the marination time he thought was between the first meeting that we had and then the actual time that we did the podcast, which was about 2 weeks. I hadn't gotten any information about him between that, and I had already made up in my mind that I didn't want to do a podcast at that time. So we want to make sure that we give the people the opportunity to feel seen, heard, and understood. And it's going to be very apparent if we're being seen, heard, and understood by the interactions that we have with them. Another thing that I've also noticed that it doesn't make you feel seen or heard or understood is that when people send generic messages like beauty leaders or beauty entrepreneurs or something in that sense, okay, I got a name. Really, if you really want to connect with me, you got to call me by the name. I mean, I was raised that way, that you call people by their name. There's nothing sweeter than a person's name, and they can really feel like they're seen, heard, and understood. But if you put some kind of generic type of title, dear beauty leader or dear business owner or something like that, it loses its sense of being seen because you didn't even take the time to figure out what my name was or calling me by my name. So now I'm sure you may be wondering, so what is the benefits of doing it with the A game? One, first and foremost, it's deeper connections with your clients and your prospects. And this is the part that I absolutely love, because when you have people that are cheerleaders and super buyers for you and they want to tell everybody and their mama, everybody in their circle of influence about you, that is powerful. That helps you with your marketing and helps you expand your business without even using marketing dollars, because you have social proof that allows the folks to continue to support and refer you out to other folks. And because they're referring you out to other folks, that really gives you that credibility that you are really doing something. You have a service or a product or even an idea that really helps them get to their desired promised land. Secondly, I know personally for me, it just feels better for me that I'm not just being salesy, that I'm not just trying to sell someone something just for the sake of selling it, that I'm truly helping them in their journey, that I'm becoming a part of their hero's journey for them to get to their desired promised land. So for me, it's really personal empowerment. And then last but definitely not least, is increased sales, because you will have people that will buy from you over and over again instead of that one and done sale, because I've experienced that as well. Because I've had time in my sales journey that I did the bro marketing because I didn't know any better. But now that I do know better, and now that I know better, I want to help others to let go of that type of sales strategy, because people are just kind of over that, really over that. People want to be seen, heard, and understood. They want to buy stuff. They don't want to be sold to. So we got to make it a point to really be able to understand and take the time to connect with folks, find out what they need, even just ask them what they need. I mean, it's not even necessarily a long process. You could have something valuable service and ask them what they found value in. And if they don't, then they're not your person, and keep moving, right? That's really what it comes down to. So I'm hoping that this video blesses you today. Of course, if you are a female entrepreneur with introverted tendencies and you're looking for someone to help you with your lead strategy or your sales process or even your nurture system in the back end, I would love to connect with you to see if we're a good fit. I'll put that information down in the chat for the fitting call. It's free. It's only 15 minutes, and it's just to see if we're the right fit. And as always, I would love to know what your key takeaways are from this video today. What really resonated with you? Put that in the comments as well, and share this with 3 of your buddies, because you want them to know the power of letting go of that bro marketing. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.